My fellow Australians, Australia is our nation. This nation was built on Judeo-Christian values. I called Australia home about 1.5 decades ago. Ever since I've come into this land, I've just loved the land and loved the people. I've seen the way our nation is so blessed. And as I read through and found out, I realized that our nation was built on Judeo-Christian values. Australia, today I have exciting news for you. A new political party, Rise Up Australia Party. Keep Australia Australian. We have seen the Western world, particularly Europe, embracing multiculturalism, which seems to be very good. Everyone seems to be loving it. But the ultimate product of multiculturalism in Europe has been a failure. Recently, we had the German leader, as well as the British leader from the Great Britain, nation of Great Britain, David Cameron, very clearly state that multiculturalism is a failure. We see places like France having ethnic enclaves across the country, to the point that these areas are so dominated by ethnic communities, particularly the Islamic community, that the fellow Frenchmen, Anglo-Saxons particularly, are unable to even walk on those streets. Australia, it's time for Australia to stand up and be patriotic and be proud of our nation and be proud of our Judeo-Christian heritage. We Australians need to stand together united. This is why we need a party such as Rise Up Australia Party to keep Australia Australian. Yes, we welcome everyone to come into our country. We love everyone. But when you come here, you made a choice to come into this country. We didn't tell you to come. I made a choice to come into this country. I should now embrace this country and become Australian. And today we see Australia's fundamental values being deteriorated because of immigration. And the government constantly, particularly the secular left-wing governments, trying to pander to the minorities who come into the country. And we are losing our very foundations. What makes Australia great is its foundations on which it was built on. Why do people want to leave their countries to come and live in Australia? Because they think it's a better place to live in. So why should we change our country to the places where the people have come from? If you don't like this country, it's your choice to stay or leave. But if you live in this country, it's time to stand for your nation. This is why Rise Up Australia Party, Keep Australia Australian, is a party raised up to take us back to basics. I remember the words of President Kennedy: do not wait for what your country can do for you, but you think of what you can do for your country. And I want to call on every single person watching this broadcast. It's time for you to do what you can do for your country. Because if you wait for your country to do something for you all the time, we might be waiting for a long time. As we could see very clearly, there's a very great push from the secular left-wing groups, particularly the Greens. We need to stand up. We need a voice in Parliament, which is going to be a voice which is truthful, honest. Not a voice which is going to say things what people like to hear, but a voice which is going to tell people what they need to hear. I'm sure you know me. I'm sure you have seen me before. We have stood and fought for freedom of speech in this country for 5 years, from 2002 to 2007, when the Islamic Council of Victoria took me to court on charges that we had vilified them. We thank God about, after 5 years, we were cleared of no wrongdoing at all by the Supreme Court. And we had a great victory. Many asked me at that time, why don't you just apologize and back off? I don't apologize for speaking the truth. Friends, it's time to stand now. Because if we don't stand now, what we will leave is 20 years from now, our children and grandchildren will pay a heavy price to take back this nation. Rise Up Australia Party is totally committed to keep Australia Australian. And with great joy, I want to say this. What makes Australia great is the people who have come from so many different countries and call this nation home. We want to thank the indigenous people of this land for welcoming us all into this country. But I think we should also remember that this country is what it is today because of the people who came from Great Britain. If not for them coming and setting this country up with Judeo-Christian values, we possibly could be very well a third world country. Facts are facts. Many people don't like to address the truth. The truth is, we need to be grateful to the nation of Great Britain for coming into Australia and setting this nation up as a great democracy. The rejects 200 years ago, as it was said, rejects of a society was sent to a nation. 200 years later, these rejects have become the strength and foundation stones of a great nation, the envy of many nations. I have traveled to many countries around the world. I'll tell you, I'm proud to call Australia home. I love this nation. I will not let this nation slip away. I will stand and I will fight. Rise Up Australia Party and its board of directors are totally committed to taking this fight to the streets of Australia, to keep Australia Australian. We are here not for tomorrow, not for day after tomorrow. We're here for the next 20 years, 30 years, whatever it takes, because we want to see Australia kept Australian. Rise Up Australia Party will be your voice in Parliament. We will not be compromising our values to accommodate anyone. As I said before, today's society, the left-wing secular ideologies are, let people come in. We're not telling them to assimilate into our society. Rather, we're telling the people of the land to become assimilated into their way of lifestyle. Today, we find in Europe, particularly in Great Britain and those nations, Islamic Sharia law being implemented in countries which have great democracies. People tell me, oh, it's so great to have multiculturalism. Do we actually realize that multiculturalism includes also religion for some groups of race groups, particularly the Muslim community? Multiculturalism means Islam, which also means Islamic Sharia law. That's their way of life. Now, do you actually want Islamic Sharia law in Australia? I don't think so. I don't think we want to see women covering their face and walking around. This is Australia. We have the freedom to choose what we want to do, not being told what to do and what not to do. We don't want halal products being sold. Why should anyone's religion be poked upon into another man's life? People should have the freedom to choose what they want to choose. That's Australia. We don't want Sharia law. We don't want two legal systems in Australia. We love our democracy. It's good for us. It's based on the 10 Commandments. It's based on the Judeo-Christian foundation. We cannot let go of these values, because when we start turning away and start looking to minority groups who are trying to push their agendas through and don't stand for the values of the majority, the silent majority is paying the price for what we are not doing. So here we are, Rise Up Australia Party is absolutely determined to take the stand and speak for the silent majority. And I hope and I pray that you will become a part of Rise Up Australia Party. So I want to challenge you. We are looking forward to campaigning and contesting the 2013 federal election. Vote Rise Up Australia Party if you want to keep Australia Australian. God bless Australia.